So welcome back to my channel. It's gonna be a recap of You season 1 episode 3 maybe. Okay, I'm starting to think that Peach might be in love with Beck. Okay, so Beck and Joe, it's like they're in a relationship now, so they're walking and having a conversation, holding hands, and starts asking each other about their favorite movie, and he said Beverly Hills Cop and she said Pretty in Pink, and she started to ask him about Maddie, the woman that confronted him at the party, about her friend Candace, and he was basically like, maybe it's too soon for us to start talking about our past. Let's wait a couple of days, and kind of made a joke about it and brushed it off, and that was that. So Joe was back at the store, and then in his voiceover, he was saying it's been about 3 days. So this dead body that's been in his basement for 3 days, and he goes down. He's now trying to figure out what he's going to do with his body. So he starts reading books and how to dispose of bodies, and then she comes up with this idea. He takes this mallet, the same mallet he used to crack Ben in the head the first time. He's about to knock his teeth out, so it'll be hard to identify him, but he lost his nerve and end up getting sick. And so he's like, we got to figure this out. So because at this point his body's been decaying for about 3 days. Oh God, it looks so disgusting. And so he decides, okay, he's going to put in some humidifiers and to give him and crank up the temperature to give him some more time to decide what he's going to do. Okay. So Beck didn't go back to work for that professor. He actually transferred her to another professor. And so it was her first day, and so she was reporting, and she runs into Blythe. I don't know if Blythe is also one of the professor's TAs, but she's very Blythe just come across as a bitch, like very pretentious, super intelligent, and like she just feels like she's the smartest person in the room, like she's this aura about her. And it kind of made Beck feel some kind of way, because Beck is already insecure, and Blythe is just, she was asking her about, first she assumed that Beck was from New Jersey, and she was like, huh? Well, excuse me? She was like, are you from New Jersey, right? She was like, actually, I'm from Nantucket. She's like, oh, okay. So she was like, where are you from? Well, that's complicated. Well, that's a little complicated. I was born in New Guinea, and my father worked at the State Department, and then moved, and then we were separated, and then she's going into boasting herself to make her seem like she's that bitch, right? And then she gets a phone call, and she starts speaking in Swedish, and she's like, oh, it's my grandparents. I'm gonna have to, I'm gonna have to talk to you later, or whatever. Like, she's just that kind of bitch. Like, it's just a chore, because she just feels like people are beneath her. It's just a chore to interact with them, right? So Beck leaves, and she meets with her friends, and of course, Joe was always hot on her heels, so they meet at a club and they start talking, and Ben came up and how she needs to get over him, and the other two women started talking about photos of, penises, talking about their, sexual escapades and stuff. And then she reveals that she hooked up with some guy on Tinder the same night. I guess he had walked her home, because he didn't go in. He walked her home, they kissed, and she went in. And so he was like, oh, okay, wow. And so Peach pulled her to the side and was like, well, I don't know if that's the best way, and I just want you to just have respect for yourself, and so they talked, and she was like, you know what, I'm just trying to have a good time, trying to get, I'm trying to get through this, and in the process, I live in a city of 8 million people, and it's all good, it's not that serious. And so they parted ways. But you can tell, that's what I'm looking at, like the way that she looks at Beck, it's like, is she in love with Beck? And so, of course, Joe hears the conversation about, obviously, her hooking up with this guy. And so, after she talks to Pete, she goes up to the bartender, and the bartender was like, I love your tattoo. And so, she was like, I don't have, because she's covered up. So, she's like, I don't have a tattoo. So, next she's at home and in bed with him. So, of course, Joe was standing outside like, wow, because, at this point, they're not in a relationship. So, he didn't really feel any kind of way about it, surprisingly. He didn't get upset. He was like, man, I can't go around killing every man in New York. But he's just like, well, maybe this is just what she needs to get this, get Ben out of her system, or whatever the case may be. So he was really quite understanding, considering how crazy his ass is, right? So so this next day, he's opening up the bookstore. He calls Paco. Paco comes and he's like, you know what? I'm going to need your help with some things. And so he said, I'm going to have a lot to do with the bookstore, and I wonder if you could just run some errands and I'll pay, some way to give him a little pocket money. So he gave him some money and a list of things to pick up. Okay. So, of course, Paco was like, sure, no problem, because as far as Joe's his friend. And it seemed like Paco was the only person that, I want to say Paco is the only person that Joe, you can see, had real feelings for. Now, his feelings towards Beck is he's just crazy. He's mentally ill. Like, okay. But it seems like Paco is the only person that he has genuine feelings for. So they flash to Beck. So Beck's in class. It's first time meeting with in the class with the new professor. It's a guy who's reading his poem, and of course Blythe is just unbothered, and it just basically saying that it just seems very basic and unmoving, and I just wasn't. And this is what they do. They're all trying to be writers, and they submit stories to the class. The class reads them and critiques them. So that's what they do. And so of course Blythe is. I just was unmoved and just a bitch. And so that made her even more insecure. So the professor was like, okay, so next up is going to be Blythe and Beck. They have to submit their stories at a certain time to give the class time to review them. And when they come meet again, then they'll give their critiques. So of course now she's feeling some kind of way, like, oh, okay. So in the midst of her little jaunt with the bartender, her bed breaks. Her bed broke. So now she has to buy a new bed. So she's now sitting down. She's frustrated because now she's trying to sit down and write this short story that she has to submit. And of course she's just having a time. And so he texts her saying, oh, would you like to go shopping with me? So she's like, oh, just answering my prayers, because of course she doesn't have to write. It's an excuse for her not to be able to write. And plus she does need a new bed. It's fucked up. So he takes her to the store, and they're walking through the store, and he sees this red ladle. And then we think back on the last episode where Ben was telling Joe, like, did she show you her red ladle, and how she's all kinky, how she likes to be spanked with it, and da-da-da-da-da. So she comes across this ladle, and this red ladle, and she's like, wow, I have one just like this. And so now he's thinking back to the Ben story. And so, they keep on moving through the store, and she finds a bed, and she realized, she's like, I don't know which one to get, the queen size or the king size. And he's like, your apartment can't fit a king size bed. Giving herself away a little bit. She's like, how do you know? He cleans it up. I'm like, oh, well, it's New York. Nobody's room can fit a king size bed. She's just like, oh, okay. And so right this time she gets a message. Blythe has submitted her story to the class. And so she's reading the story, and she's, oh my God, it's phenomenal. It's amazing. And again, once again, she's feeling like this big. She's feeling inadequate. And, he's basically like, oh, she submitted her story. And it's great. He's like, and she just feels like, she's like this tortured artist all the time. She never feels like she's good enough. And so they talked, and eventually next thing you know, they all over each other in the store, and he about to go down on her, and they hear other people coming in, so they stop, and then you flash to him. He's helping. He's tying the box to the car so they can take her home. And so while he's getting loading the box up, he gets a call from Ethan. Ethan is the other guy that works at the bookstore. And so some shit didn't happen. So he's saying that the electrician was there, the power went out. It's like, basically they don't know what they have going on in the basement, but he needs to get to the basement, but of course he has the basement locked. He's saying that the electrician said he could pop the lock, but I just wanted to make sure it was okay with you. And of course she's like, no, because of course Ben's body is still down there. So he's like, just lock up, just send the electrician home, lock up, and I'll take care of it when I get there. You just go home, you can just go home early. So you can see on Beck's face, she looks kind of confused, like, is everything okay? He's like, yeah. And he was just like, even in death, Ben is still a pain in my ass. So now he really has to get this body out of here, because they need to have somebody coming to fix the power. So he's down there now. He's trying to tape her. He got the body all wrapped up and trying to get it out. And who called? Who sends him a text? Beck. So she's asking him if he. she needs him. She wants him to come to help her put the bed together. So of course he leaves Ben body where it was, and he goes and helps her put the bed together. They get it together and they start talking. And she, again, still, woe is me. I don't feel like I'm, it's good, and I don't really have anything to write about. And he starts saying, so he basically was like, so when you first sit down, don't think about it. What do you feel in your gut? Like, what comes to you? And she talks about her father. And then we get the story behind the red ladle, how her father was an addict, and I'm assuming he died from an overdose eventually. But she was saying how she remembered when on the good days, he would use this red ladle when he made pancakes. And that's how she knew it was a good day. And then she said eventually the red ladle went into the drawer and never came out again. And so, of course, that completely flies in the face of the story that been told about her wanting to be spanked and all that kind of stuff with the ladle. So they're about to get all hot and heavy. There's a knock at the door. It's Peach. So Peach walks in saying that she's having some issues and she needs her to go to the doctor with her. And she was like, oh, I didn't know you were here. And then you hear Beck saying, well, I told you he was here. So it's like, this bitch was, she ain't blocking on purpose, but she really was having a medical issue. But why she didn't go straight to the damn hospital is anybody guess. So they're now in the backseat of his car. Now keep in mind, Ben's body is in the trunk. Actually, he didn't leave the body. He still got the body into the trunk. Okay, so Ben's body's in the trunk. They're in the back seat. They're stuck in traffic. And of course, Peach is like, what is that smell? Oh my God, I'm going to throw up. What is that? And he was like, oh, New York air. And so he put all the windows down. And she was like, I just can't do this. I can't do this. So she gets out. They both get out and they start walking. They've been walking the rest of the way to the hospital. So Joe decides he's going to head back home. So he pulls up to the house and you see Paco's, I don't know what to call that bad, the mama's boyfriend and the cops. And so he was like, what's the problem? And so they pull out, they have the list he gave to Paco. And it was like duct tape and wood and fire starter and all this kind of stuff. And so now he's like, oh shit, now he has to try to explain this way. And so he said, I thought that I was just trying to make the world a better place. And they're kind of looking at him like, what? And so he takes them around back and showed that there's this garden that he's building, this, growing fruit and, vegetables and that kind of stuff. And so the cops buy it. The stepfather is still like, I've been a parole officer for 15 years. He's full of shit. There's something wrong with him. He ain't here for it. So you got the stepfather, even though he's a piece of shit, he's seeing Joe for what he is. You have Peach, who sees him like he ain't what he's claiming to be. And then of course you have the friend Maddie, Candace's friend Maddie, who confronted him at the parties like, so some people got his, so you got a couple of people that got his number. So he did what he did was after he basically explained why kind of convinced him that that's why he needed the stuff, he ended up kind of flipping it, calling them unfit parents, and he's not trying to get anybody in trouble, and so they end up letting him go and sending the boys, the mother's boyfriend on, like they just wasn't going to even bother with it, and and that was that. And so Joe eventually goes out into the woods to he kind of goes out in the woods to dispose of Ben's body. So we flash to Peach and Beck. They're at the hospital and so she really was having a problem. So they end up giving her something, and Beck starts talking about Joe and how she really likes him, and then Peach is kind of getting frustrated. It's like, he works at a bookstore and he's not going to be able to take care of you, and I'm like, it seemed like to me that's how it's coming across to me that Peach is in love with Beck. Like that's how I'm getting it. But Beck ended up getting kind of offended, like she was talking down about Joe. And she ends up, telling her, I'm glad that you're okay. She gives her a kiss on the cheek and then she leaves. So Beck calls Joe. Now Joe's still out in the woods trying to get rid of his body. He trying to build this bonfire. I don't know if he put lime or something on the body and some gasoline. He's about to set the body on fire. So she is talking to him, wanting him to come over. Next in the distance he sees some people walking towards him. They have flashlights, and now he's trying to talk to her while trying to set this body on fire, while trying to stay out of sight of these people. That's what that's getting extremely close. And eventually his frustration boils over, and he's like, I don't really know what we are. You send mixed signals. And he, they start going back and forth, and it wasn't a pleasant conversation. And so eventually he's like, I can't talk right now, and he hangs up. And so he eventually gets sets the body aflame, and just as the people are getting there, and they're like, oh my God, that's one heck of a bonfire. And he was like, yeah, would you like to join me? He said, yeah, I kind of overdid it. Would you like to join me? And of course he was praying that they didn't, and they was like, well, we would like to, but we want to get to the car before it gets too dark. So, okay. So he is back at the bookstore, and it's this day. It's like they have the bookstores and libraries where they have the little kids come in and somebody will sit and read stories to them. So that's what he's doing. But of course in the voiceover he's saying that he's been trying to call Beck and she won't answer his phone calls, and he think that that one conversation may have undone everything that he's tried, that he's done to try to get with her. And so he it was what it was. And so Beck eventually shows up to class. It's the day that the day we're supposed to read the stories and critique. And so they critiqued Blythe's story, and she never submitted her story. So she shows up the day it's due, and they're like, well, we can't really critique the story in front of you. And she said it was only one page because she kept starting over, and the professor was basically like, that's not enough for us to do a full critique, and basically next time, get your stuff in how you're supposed to. So after all that, she didn't get to present her writings. So Joe's cleaning up after he's rolling the little carpet and stuff up after the reading with the kids, and he sees Beck, and she's almost like she's going over what she's going to say to him in her head, having this conversation with herself, and then she sees him, and she apologized for being short with him, and she agreed that yeah, she does use every excuse in the world not to write, going shopping, she uses her friends, but she also flipped it on him and let him know that, well, for all that you tell me, there's still a lot that I don't know about you. I've never been to your place. I don't know any of your friends. I don't really know who you are. And so he ends up taking her downstairs to the basement, and then of course he's showing her the climate control room with all the books, and he was like, if you want me to take you to my apartment, I can. If you want to meet my friends, I can show you, but I'm assuming that Joe don't have no damn friends. And not any real ones, and not any legitimate friends. But he was like, of all the places, this is my favorite place. And he was talking about the room where the books are. He said, I keep them safe and they're protected here, and this is my favorite place. So now she feels like he's kind of somewhat letting her in. And so they've, patched things up. So Beck is at Peach's house, and Peach is coming down, and she was like, yeah, I just deleted her Tinder account. And so Peach was like, oh, okay, good for you. And she was kind of curt and short with her. And she basically like, if you want your old broke book, the man working at the bookstore, you go right ahead. And then she realized, she said, wait a minute, this is Peach looking at her bookshelf. There's a book missing. She was like, what are you talking about? And she said, what book? And then she told her the book, and she's like, and that's the same book that Joe was looking at the party. And so Beck is kind of looking at that empty space, and Peach just walked off. So it's like, okay, damn, okay. I guess he figured since she based on her comment, you've probably read more of these books than I have, that she wouldn't notice that that one book missing, but she did. So Joe and Paco. So Joe gets a call from Beck, wanting him to come over so they can just finish where they left off. He leaves the apartment. Of course, Paco was sitting on the stairs, and Paco was very apologetic. Like, I'm so sorry. I left the list on the bed, and they got it. And he's very apologetic. And Joe was like, no, it's no problem. It's no problem. Everything is good. Everything is good. We're going to be the, Three Musketeers. What did the Three Musketeers say? It's one for all for one and one for all the whole thing. And it was all good. He was not bothered by it at all. And so, of course, the stepfather comes out drunk, and he makes Paco go in the house and says what he has to say to Joe about how he thinks it's creepy and he's weird and something wrong with you and da-da-da-da-da. And basically, that's how they left it. Joe was like, I got other shit I need to do, and we're going to put dealing with you on the back burner for now. So Joe shows up at Beck's place. He has the pancake mix, like he's going to, kind of like a memory, like to help her evoke these happy memories that she had with her father. But she opens the door when a red bra, like she's already in her lingeries. So they hit it and they all hot and bothered and they get into it and finally it's about to happen. And what the fuck do you think happened? Joe got himself all a little too excited and hot and bothered, and he lasted about 2 minutes. And she was like, did you just? And that's how the episode ended. All of that freaking build up to when they was gonna really get down what to get down, and it lasted 2 freaking minutes. I don't even think it lasted that long. Oh, Joe. But yeah, that's how this episode ended. I am going to end this here, and I will talk to you guys later.